Before you tonight, we have a public hearing at the request of Victoria Lynn for an annexation of a 10-acre property directly north of the current terminus of Bonnet Drive. Also being reviewed is the comp plan designation as well as a rezoning request for that property upon annexation. So we've got those three components. The first, the annexation of the 10-acre property. The adoption of the current comprehensive plan land use designation, and that is currently auto-urban commercial. So when we annex that property, we'll need to adopt that by resolution. And then rezoning of the property, and it's currently designated as ag forest, and it's proposed to be rezoned to the motor business zone. Just to orient yourself, we got Bonnet Drive there running north-south, kind of on the left-hand side of your screen. This would be the 10-acre subject property here, right at the current terminus of Bonnet Drive. You've got A Street running east-west. This would be a church property here, city well property here to the south, predominantly agricultural land here to the north, but you also have a couple of homesteads here to the east as well as some outbuildings. This is Gritman Medical Office Building Complex here to the southeast. That would be Walmart. And then you have some various commercial development here to the southwest, former Staples Building, Goodwill, La Quinta, some of those properties. This would be a survey of the subject property. It's highlighted in yellow there at the south portion of your screen. 10 acres in size. There is a conservation easement of about 40 acres in size directly to the north of this property. And then you also have a couple of those homestead properties that I had mentioned earlier. This will just be a closer view of that property. Once again, you got the church here, Gritman Medical Office Building here to the southeast. I got a topographical map. Those represent 2-foot contour lines. So you can see there's quite a bit of slope to it. It's gaining elevation as you head to the north. Quite a prominent ridge here. And then there's a valley directly on the other side of that ridge to the north of that. Looking at the current comp plan designation, it's currently designated as auto-urban commercial, as well as all the surrounding properties to the north, east, and to the south. Primarily commercial there to the south. So what the auto-urban commercial designation, what the comp plan identifies that as is intended to provide for commercial services and developments that are motor vehicle oriented or those require large amounts of land. It should be located adjacent to existing commercial developments and along major arterials where the vehicle traffic can be accommodated. And it points us to the motor business zoning designation as the most appropriate zone for that land use designation. Taking a look at the zoning in the area, like I mentioned, it's currently agricultural forestry as well as property that's also in the county and the area city impact to the north and to the east. Within the city limits there to the south, the church and the well site are currently in the multifamily residential, that's the R4 zone. And then motor business, predominantly all those commercial and medical office uses are within that motor business zone there to the south and the southeast. The proposal would be to rezone from ag forest to motor business, so we'd be annexing those 10 acres and rezoning to motor business. The zoning code says about the motor business zone, it's typically intended to provide for the location of grouping of compatible uses that have similar operation as they involve enterprises which depend primarily on the transient motor vehicle-based trade. By concentrating such uses, city intends to increase public convenience when utilizing such services, and within the regulation allow such activities to render the maximum service. Taking a look at the comp plan thoroughfare plan, which identifies classifications of roadways. You can see Bonnet Drive, the red solid or the blue solid line here represents a minor arterial classification, and you can see the dashed line extending here to the north and then heads due northeast after it gets to the northern portion of that 10-acre property. That's just intended to show that as future development occurs that we'll need to anticipate that Bonnet would be extended up to the north and to the northeast as a minor arterial classification. Looking at the south there, A Street, that east-west corridor, it's identified as a collector classification, so that would be representative of the green line there. Just had a closer view. You can see city utilities are extended, so water mains, sewer mains, and storm sewer mains are extended all the way to the northern terminus of War Bonnet Drive. So taking a look at that water system, 2012 Comprehensive Water System Plan. It's identified that the existing system has adequate potable and fire flows to handle any future development of that property. The sanitary sewer system, we have those mains in War Bonnet, and then the 2011 Comprehensive Sewer System Plan also identified that the existing system's adequate to serve additional flow that could be come from that subject property. And then the storm sewer system, we can mention the existing main in War Bonnet Drive. I would like to note that Planning and Zoning did conduct a public hearing upon the land use designation as well as the rezoning of the property, and that occurred on February 8th, 2017, and they recommended approval of both those actions. Staff's recommendation is to conduct a public hearing upon the annexation, land use, and zoning designation, and upon consideration of any testimony presented, approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules, and if the annexation ordinance approved, approve the proposed comp plan resolution, and adopt Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria and standards. And then if the annexation ordinance is approved, comp plan land use designation resolution is approved, then approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules, as well as adopting Planning and Zoning Commission's reasoned statement of relevant criteria, with one additional condition that War Bonnet Drive and public utilities shall be extended to the northern boundary of the subject property in accordance with the alignment of the thoroughfare plan within the City of Moscow Comprehensive Plan as development occurs on the subject property. And I'd certainly be able to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Mike before we go in here? Walter?
Mike, you made a comment that War Bonnet in the comp plan is to be extended, quote, as future development occurs. The next property north is a conservation easement. What impact does that have on War Bonnet at the north edge of this proposed annexation?
Well, this property could be developed, but since that's in a conservation easement, and the applicants could certainly speak a little bit more about that, but it's my understanding that that's a perpetual easement for conservation, so that would prohibit any roadway going through that property at this point in time. You know, it could change in the future. We don't know. It'd be up to the holder of the conservation easement.
Walter?
So, go back, to that map. So, as currently imagined, this would be the end of War Bonnet on that 10 acres.
Well, just for this property, it would be the terminus of War Bonnet. That's not to say
I understand that. I'm talking about beyond it.
Well, it's not to say something, you know, things change in the future, and you know, certainly just because it's in a conservation easement doesn't mean that something could be amended in the future where it could be opened up for development, but you know.
Mike, question on that, following up on what Walter said. War Bonnet Drive doesn't need to go just necessarily north. If you go to the east through that, whatever that is, that farm there.
Yeah, it could follow.
That's not part of that. You got that map for that land trust. So if it didn't go up all the way over, if it went to the right side of that, through, above A Street, I mean, that's not part of that conservation.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, this is the border of the conservation easement here.
So it could go to the right side of that property, the east side of that property, and go east.
Yeah, it would probably take removal of some of those outbuildings.
Or it could go east and then back up north once it's around that, whatever that 40 acres or whatever that is on that conservation easement.
Certainly could.
I mean, it could.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a possibility. You got another question, Walter?
If I may, a question for Les. I think I had heard somewhere that you had looked at going east. I don't know whether you were looking at what the mayor's talking about for War Bonnet, or am I incorrect?
I don't recall that we've looked at taking War Bonnet further east. We do have in our records a couple of different routes that were considered over the years for War Bonnet, but they are generally to the north, just a little variation on, exactly how due north they would go.
Well,
I'm not aware of any further east.
The point that Walter's making and the point that I've just made too falls right on the condition that staff is recommending that we do, is to add on to the utilities and extension of War Bonnet Drive. We just not sure if it's going to go north or northeast, or just east once it gets on a property.
Yeah, the thoroughfare plan
That's what the condition, that's what the condition is speaking about.
Yeah, and there'd be some flexibility. It's just to the northern boundary, just because it's this, this is the subject property. But, it's really a general alignment, so staff would be able to work with the future developer in order to adjust that slightly.
Okay. John, you had a question?
Well, am I wrong in assuming that we've already got a policy that if you're going to put in a development, you have to take the city services from the one side of your development all the way to the other side?
Well, that'd be part of our subdivision ordinance, and so somebody could develop the property without going through a subdivision plat, and so that would be the concern. So if somebody put a large, say, retail box, right in the middle of that property, there'd be nothing in the city code that wouldn't, not allow them to do that. And there'd be nothing that could force us or could force them in order to extend the street and utilities to the northern property boundary unless they went through a subdivision plat or a lot division.
So what we're doing then is saying that you have to do this.
When you develop the property, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Before I open that public hearing, I just want to reiterate the three we're having. One public hearing, we're looking at three things that kind of compound into each other. The first would be the approval of an annexation ordinance. And if that is approved, then on with the comprehensive plan use designation resolution. And if that passes through, then to the next, the annex or the approval of the zoning ordinance, if all those three things fall in order. So just keep that in mind, Council. I will open the public hearing right now at 8:07. I would like to hear from the applicant.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Aaron Repke. I am an attorney representing the applicant Victoria Lynn. Victoria Lynn is a personal representative of the estate of Kathleen Montgomery. The Montgomerys were longtime Moscow residents, and they farmed this 10-acre parcel, the subject property. As Mr. Ray pointed out, this is a 10-acre parcel that sits immediately north of War Bonnet Drive. On the south, we have Gritman Medical Complex, we have a church, City Well, and Walmart. And then on the north, as Mr. Ray discussed, is this 40-acre conservation easement. Now, that conservation easement is a perpetual easement. It prohibits all future development, including any type of construction. It is amendable under limited circumstances, but that would be up to the holder of the easement, which is currently Palouse Land Trust. So what this does is it creates a situation where we have development to the south of the subject property, and then we have this property on the north that is subject to the conservation easement that kind of currently caps off any future development. Now, the applicant's request is that the city annex this 10-acre subject parcel, retain its current auto urban commercial designation under the comprehensive plan, and then rezone from ag forest to motor business. And I would like to just say that the applicant has no current plans for development. We're just seeking the annexation and appropriate rezone. As Mr. Ray also said, this request went before Planning and Zoning on February 8th, 2017, and Planning and Zoning recommended approval of the request. As far as the conditions placed upon the rezone, the applicant has no objection to this condition, to extend War Bonnet up to the northern terminus of the subject property and also extend city services. Now, as you consider the relative comprehensive plan criteria and standards and rezone criteria and standards, I'd like to point out just a few facts. The subject property is already designated as auto urban commercial in the comprehensive plan, and we're simply asking to retain this designation, which is consistent with the adjacent properties to the south of the property. The zoning designation of motor business is also consistent with auto urban commercial, and the proposed rezone would simply bring the subject property into the development pattern that already exists in the area. Finally, the subject property sits immediately north of Bonnet Drive, and current public utilities run to the southern edge of the subject property. And by extending Bonnet Drive, it would provide easy access. Public utilities are accessible, and the Public Works Department has determined that the existing water, sewer, and sewer systems have the adequate capacity to serve the subject property. Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Rippey. I think we got that, so thank you.
Thank you.
I will open up comments or from anybody, whether in favor, opposed, or general comments. Not seeing anybody rush up, I will close it at 8:11 and ask the council how they'd like to move forward with this. Art.
I'll jump in. This seems to be a logical extension of Moscow's planned development. It's taken into account in the comprehensive plan, the transportation plan. The utilities are all present and in place. And I see, from my point of view, any impediment to approving this.
So are you making a motion, or?
Well, all right, I'll start off with, unless somebody else wants to jump in, but
just introducing.
I would approve the annexation ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and to be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Art and a second by Catherine to approve the annexation ordinance under the suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings. I'll start to roll. John?
Aye.
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 Okay, now we'll move on to item number 2.
I'll try number 2.
Okay, John.
Unless you want to. Your Honor, you need to read the ordinance.
Oh, sorry. That's exactly right. I've got 2 of them that I've got to read as we're going along here, but first things first. 2017-3. 2017-3, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho. The land described in Section 1 of this ordinance and generally shown as Exhibit A attached hereto and incorporated in this reference be annexed to the City of Moscow, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force effect from and after passage, approval, and publication according to law. So now we will move on to item number 2, John.
I would move that we approve the proposed comprehensive plan, land use designation resolution, and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commissioned reason statement of relevant criteria.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by John and a second by Catherine to approve the proposed comprehensive plan use designation resolution and adopt the Planning and Zoning Commission reason statement of relevant criteria. I'll start with Walter.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry. You were there.
Aye.
Okay. That was a resolution. So now we will move on to item number 3.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
You want to include the,
I would like to include the
Bonnet Drive.
Bonnet Drive condition.
There's 2 conditions, I thought.
There's just one.
There's just one.
Okay.
Okay, So that is my motion.
Okay, and John's second. So we got a motion by Gene and a second by John to approve the proposed zoning ordinance and the suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, with the condition of War Bonnet Drive and public utilities shall be extended to the northern boundary of the subject property in accordance with the alignment of the thoroughfare plan within the City of Moscow's comprehensive plan as development occurs upon the subject property. Everybody's got that? I'll start the roll. John.
Aye.
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 Okay, and we'll move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, got another ordinance to read. Yes, I do. Ordinance, land zoning ordinance 2017-4. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the zoning of a 10-acre parcel of property described in Section 1 of this ordinance as motor business, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.